There is a moment on every path of transformation when progress stops feeling like movement and starts feeling like resistance. Not external resistance, internal. This is the moment most people never cross. At first, growth feels energizing. You feel momentum, clarity, direction. Every action feels like proof you are becoming someone new. But growth has stages. And eventually, it stops rewarding you. It begins demanding from you. It asks for what motivation never required. Certainty, comfort, familiar identity, emotional safety. This is the breaking point. Not where effort becomes difficult, but where change becomes irreversible. Because real growth does not add to who you are. It replaces who you are, and the mind, built to preserve identity, does not surrender easily. At this stage, something strange happens. The path forward is still clear, but your desire to walk it begins to fracture. You feel resistance that logic cannot explain. You hesitate, even though you know the next step. You delay, even though nothing blocks you. You feel tired, even when physically capable. This is not laziness. This is psychological self-defense. Because the version of you that has survived until now understands something terrifying. If you continue, it will no longer exist. Most people believe they are fighting difficulty. They are not. They are fighting the instinct to remain the same. Identity preservation is one of the strongest forces in the human mind. Stronger than ambition. Stronger than logic. Sometimes even stronger than suffering. You can want change, and still unconsciously resist becoming different. That is why progress feels violent at this stage. Because growth is no longer improvement. It is confrontation. The habits that once comforted you now feel restrictive. The thoughts that once guided you now feel limiting. The identity that once protected you now feels too small. But abandoning it feels like stepping into nothing. So the mind creates pressure. Doubt becomes louder. Fatigue becomes heavier. Distraction becomes more tempting. Meaning becomes less clear. Not to stop you from growing, but to pull you back into what is familiar. Most people interpret this tension as failure. They believe something is wrong with them. They believe they have reached their limit. They believe they are not built for what lies ahead. So they retreat, not all at once. Gradually, they loosen commitment, reduce intensity, delay action, negotiate standards, and slowly, almost invisibly, they return to the identity they were escaping. Relief follows. Comfort returns. The internal pressure disappears. And they call this balance, or realism, or acceptance. But something inside them knows the truth. They did not choose peace. They chose safety over transformation. The breaking point is not where growth becomes impossible. It is where growth demands full psychological separation from who you were. And very few people are willing to let the past version of themselves collapse completely. Because collapse feels like loss. But what they do not understand is this. The discomfort they feel is not destruction. It is structural reorganization. The mind is not breaking. It is reassembling. But reassembly requires instability. Everything that once felt permanent must loosen. Everything that once felt certain must shift. Everything that once felt like me must be questioned. This creates a temporary state of internal chaos, and humans are wired to escape chaos quickly. So they run back to habits, back to comfort, back to predictable emotional patterns. Anything that restores psychological stability, even if it restores limitation. But those who cross the breaking point respond differently. They do not interpret instability as danger. They interpret it as evidence, evidence that transformation is actually happening. They understand something rare. When identity begins dissolving, progress is real. When certainty disappears, expansion is occurring. When comfort becomes impossible, evolution is underway. So instead of retreating, they remain present. They allow confusion. They tolerate uncertainty. They continue acting, even without emotional reinforcement. Not because it feels good, because they understand what is being forged, a new internal structure capable of holding a greater version of self. This stage is quiet. There is no dramatic breakthrough, no surge of motivation, no triumphant feeling of arrival, just persistence inside instability. And slowly, something reorganizes. The actions that once felt forced become natural. The thoughts that once felt foreign become familiar. The identity that once felt distant becomes default. Without announcement, without ceremony, you realize you are no longer who you were. The breaking point has passed, and what remains is not someone who survived growth, but someone rebuilt by it. Most people never reach this place because they mistake transformation for threat. They stop at the threshold where becoming real requires becoming different. But those who cross discover something permanent. Growth is no longer something they chase. It is something they allow, because they understand that every future evolution will contain another breaking point, another moment where identity dissolves, where certainty vanishes, where stability fractures. And they will not fear it. They will recognize it. The signal that expansion has begun again. The signal that the next version of themselves is forming. The signal that they are being asked once more to release who they were so they can become who they are capable of holding. And this is why most people fail when growth gets real. Not because the path is too hard, because the cost is psychological rebirth. And rebirth always feels like the end, before it feels like the beginning.